Hello Terry. Here we are at Bauma, the world's largest construction equipment show. So probably relevant to think about the impact of the construction industry on carbon emissions and how that impacts on the global increase in temperatures. Could you comment on that for us?
Yeah, I mean, currently the building and construction sector comprises about 30% of global greenhouse gas emissions, which is significant. I mean, that shows us that the building and construction is part of the problem and part of the challenge, but we think more positively it's also part of the solution. But there's a lot to be done. We did some work with the International Energy Agency to really take a hard look at those numbers, and what they showed us was that if we continue building as we're building and constructing as we're constructing today, we're on track to a scenario of 6 degrees of global warming, the results of which would be catastrophic. But the good news is that we also took a look at what was possible in the future, and they demonstrated that by taking significant actions, we can actually achieve a 2-degree scenario by making significant emissions reductions. And we took a look at what that number was, and that really means from now until 2050, we have to reduce 84 gigatons of CO2 emissions, which is significant. But we know that it is possible, and we at the World Green Building Council have made that our commitment to lead to a market transformation of the global building and construction sector to reduce those 84 gigatons of CO2. We know it can be done.
That's excellent news. What are the particular main steps which will lead to an achievement of that reduction?
There are a number of them. We know that we have to build net zero. And when we say build net zero, that's both in creating standing buildings that have operating emissions of almost close to zero or net zero, but it's also in the process of building and the process of building infrastructure, of building buildings, and then that process and the materials used, we also have to get to net zero as close as possible. And I think that will mean innovation both in the process, but in the materials that we're using as well. And we also know that we have to undertake quite a bit of renovation. So existing buildings, existing infrastructure, we have to make sure that they are also low carbon and make some changes to their existence now instead of just building anew.
And what role did the construction industry play at the recent meetings in Paris?
It was really exciting, actually. For the first time, the construction industry played quite a significant role. In the past at the COPs, there had been maybe a day dedicated to energy or a day dedicated to the private sector, and maybe construction was a small part of that. But this year, for the first time, there's an entire day dedicated to building and construction. And that day happened the week before the final negotiations of the actual Paris Treaty. And the purpose of that was to bring the sector together, to get them to demonstrate to the countries that were signing the treaty that this sector has the solutions, that they are coordinated, they are working together, they have the optimism and the momentum to actually transform the industry, to really give the countries the confidence that they could sign this ambitious treaty and know that the construction and building sector was behind them. So an alliance was formed of a number of countries, a number of cities, a number of major companies, but also NGOs like the World Green Building Council. And they'll be really working together following on from Paris in the lead up to the COP22 and all of the other COPs to really coordinate and raise the level of ambition and really be greater than the sum of their parts by working together. We're really excited about it.
And perhaps you could just tell us a bit about the role of the World Green Building Council and the scope of its activities?
Absolutely.
And what part it's playing?
Yeah. So we have right now 75 green building councils all around the world in 5 regions, in Middle East and North Africa, in Europe, in the Americas, in Asia Pacific, and in Africa. And those green building councils are undertaking a number of different activities. They're undertaking certification, and that really incentivizes those that are building to really build to the best standards. And those certification is both for buildings, but also for infrastructure. For example, in India, they're certifying things like the Delhi Metro to make sure that they are as actually low emissions as possible. The green building councils are also undertaking a lot of education and training and making sure that we have the skills that we need to actually build and construct in a more efficient and low carbon manner. And we're working with cities as well. I think there's a great opportunity to work directly with mayors who are taking significant steps and really progressive when it comes to both infrastructure and building in a low carbon way. So the World Green Building Council supports those green building councils and their efforts, but we also bring the green building councils together to work on global projects. And we're really hoping that over time we'll have more projects that are focused on infrastructure and also really making sure that we are getting the construction process as low carbon as possible and uniting all of the green building councils.
So it really is engagement across the whole construction industry value chain.
Absolutely, and so working with many different sectors. So the beauty of the Green Building Councils is that they bring together a number of different industries across building and construction. It was the original ethos, the original vision of the Green Building Council was that, you know, the sector had been quite disaggregated and they were working in silos, but actually by bringing the supply chain and the value chain together and making sure that there's a common understanding of what needs to happen, that there's coordination of efforts, and that's where we're really seeing the significant change. And so the Green Building Councils at a national level will be doing that, but then also the World Green Building at a global level. And that's why we're really excited about Volvo Construction Products joining our corporate advisory board, because that corporate advisory board at a global level brings together the representatives from the different parts of the value chain to make sure that we're guiding the movement in a way that enables collaboration and is as progressive as it can be by working together.
So it's the partnership that will achieve results.
Absolutely.
Nobody can do it working alone.
Greater than the sum of our parts.
So challenging but exciting times.
Yeah, we think so. And we're really looking forward to working together on it going forward. So exciting times ahead, and we will reduce those 84 gigatons of CO2 working together. We know it can happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.